Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the AI Monetization Podcast. I'm Binny, the co-founder of Project Pro. As you know, we speak with industry, business, and AI leaders on what tangible business outcomes they are seeing with AI. Today, I'm very excited to have Alexander on the show. Alexander is the head of AI at Telus. Telus is obviously a leading Canadian telecom and technology company that has a broad range of products and services in, wireless, wireline internet, health, agriculture, entertainment, services, etc. So, looking forward to speaking to you, Alexander, across, how you deliver outcomes across all of these industries. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Alexander, I'm curious, when you started off in your career, how did you kind of find your way into kind of data science, machine learning, which obviously led you to the current moment of AI right now? How did that happen?
This is interesting. I've been quite lucky in the sense that I've been always in software and data through my entire career.
Hmm.
Um, I found a deep passion for anything that is about figuring out an outcome with some input. So, like, how do you explain something with a hidden formula behind it? So
Hmm.
that's always something that passionate me, like optimization, getting more information about statistics, and trying to guess what's explaining an outcome. So I've always had a push to get deeper into that without necessarily like going straight into AI per se, but like I've always been into mathematics and application of data to create business outcome.
Hmm.
So one of my first role actually was already in telecommunication as a capacity engineer, and our
Hmm.
role was to predict when our network towers would start to see congestion in the future. It
Hmm.
takes a lot of time to build a solution for that, building new towers or adding new frequencies. So you need to know like 5 to 10 years in advance whenever there will be congestion in a specific part of the network. Um, that's a really privileged position because you need to deal with the technology itself, but also a lot of data, massive amount of data. And also you need to predict the return on investment of building a new tower and being kind of a bridge between network investment and the business return that it brings. So anything about like releasing new devices, increasing data allowance for our subscribers, or even like going to unlimited data. We were in the center of making clear business strategy decision in order to pursue this initiative or not. So
Hmm.
already I was using forecasting models. I was using some traditional machine learning models, and I've been like coding my way through helping business decision along the way. So it's been with me through my career, and that's always what I've been deeply passionate about. But I think one key turning point was that when I did an MBA, right at the time where we had the first big wave of hype around AI, which I would call deep learning a hype. There's been the generative AI now and the agentic, but like the first was around 2015, 2016, when we started to hear about deep learning and all the potential to do computer vision with it, audio understanding, and getting really deeply more advanced in the way we can apply an input to get to an output.
Yeah.
Um, I've been quite lucky because I've been doing my MBA in Montreal, and we have one of the godfather of AI in Montreal, Yoshua Bengio. So there's been a lot of investment, a lot of communities, a lot of different startups that were in Montreal, and I could get like really deeply in that field and start to read and learn and connect with people in that field, and that's when really I understood that what I was looking for to my whole career was this AI field, and that's when I got even deeper into that, and I've learned a lot of things through my encounters there, from the people I met, from a company I did an internship in that was really all about the hype. So like they went really big, really fast, received a lot of money, attracted a lot of great talent, but they fell at the end because they were trying to figure out a problem to apply AI to. So they had the amazing solution, but they didn't have a problem-centric view. They were trying to force AI into a solution. And I had a lot of learnings from that. I really understood that first you need a good problem statement before getting to applying a technology to it. And that really shaped my journey forward.
That is fantastic. Lots of things there I would love to double click into. It's very nice how your passion for just kind of structuring and massaging data came together with Montreal becoming like kind of the AI epicenter, and plus the Gen AI wave right now. That's very nice. I'm curious, Alexander, do you feel that, pre-Gen AI and post-Gen AI, which is, I guess, before 24 months ago and now, the role of a data scientist, like the day-to-day work, does it look very different? Because at least from my understanding, data scientists were mostly very focused on structured numerical data. But with agentic and Gen AI, there's a lot of focus seems to be on unstructured, text-heavy kind of applications. So does the kind of skills change? Does your day-to-day look very different because of this?
This is a really good question. Thanks for asking.
Sure.
I think it evolved a lot. It changed a lot. As the technology
Mhm.
changed extremely fast, we need to
Mhm.
also be really agile in the way we manage and do our work.
Mhm.
You're totally right in the sense that applying a pre-trained model like
Mhm.
an LLM or an agent to a problem versus like building a machine learning model from scratch from the data is completely different. But
Yeah.
we actually ask the same kind of people to do it. So
Mhm.
we still go to data scientists or machine learning engineer to do that. So their role completely changed. But at the same time,
Mhm.
I would say that we still do the machine learning training. Like it's still part of our work.
Yeah.
Generative AI and agentic AI is on top of what they're doing. So we still ask them to build machine learning model. And it's not that generative AI is here and agentic AI is here as well. And we're defining this field that machine learning has become irrelevant. It's still
Yeah.
super important and it's still not
Yeah.
applied enough in the industry. I would like this is a wild guess here, but I would say that maybe 60% of the value we still create is based on what we call traditional AI. And I
Hmm.
hate that term because it's not
Hmm.
that it's old and it's been
It's not
replaced by
very
traditional.
old.
It's completely different. It's two
Yeah.
different ways to tackle a problem.
Mm.
So both are there, and we still need people to be able to do both actually. So their role
Yeah.
evolved. They're doing more, but they still need to do the traditional machine learning as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And you used a pretty interesting term when you described the company where you did your internship with. You said it's very important to apply AI to a good problem. It's very good problem. Could you help us understand what is the shape of a good problem? What does a good problem look like inside a company that you should tackle?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So to give a little bit more story on that,
Mhm.
I've been, as I've mentioned before, I've been in AI for because I was deeply passionate about the field since the beginning.
Yeah.
Like that's really a passion. It's not because it's been trendy or not because there's a hype around that. It's not even because I thought like AI was the future. Like I went to that
Mm.
because I was deeply passionate about the field, and it
Yeah.
happens to be becoming big and impacting everywhere really.
Yeah.
Um, so I do see a lot of excitement today. Like a lot of people wants to work in AI, a lot of company wants to invest in AI just because of the hype. And I think
Mm.
it's the worst way to tackle this.
Mm.
We shouldn't be too afraid of the fear of missing out, of not doing AI today, waiting a couple of months. Any new technology is about fueling your current strategy. It's about
Mm.
accelerating what you already had in mind, not reshaping your whole strategy. Like paper industry shouldn't rethink their industry to be AI centric. Like they should just
Mm.
fuel what they've been already doing really well, but accelerate it with those new technologies. So a lot of business people want to apply AI today, which is a good thing that they consider it. They are figuring out how this technology can help, but they shouldn't think already at how can we push agentic AI, for example, in their process. This is not about
Mm.
apply AI. It's more about understanding what's your real business problem. Where are your biggest costs? Where are your biggest revenue opportunity? What are your most important process that you're working on right now? And let's dig into this. Let's start with more strategy consulting approach. Let's understand and map the value chain end to end, understand how you're creating value as a business right now,
Hmm.
and then AI will come into play for sure eventually. There's so many different technologies in AI can tackle any type of data. We're collecting so much data right now, and even
Hmm.
with voice or text now you can apply AI too. So AI will come into play for sure, but let's
Yeah.
not think about first. Let's think about your business problem or your business opportunity first. Dig
Hmm.
into that, find the right problem to tackle, and then AI will come into play later. We
Hmm.
found through time that this is the best way to really create meaningful value with AI and not just
Yeah.
go for that. Hype is out there. It's already, we don't need to fuel it more. We just need to be concrete and really do something that is useful. Actually, our team motto is make the cool useful. So yeah, it's cool AI, but if we are to apply AI, it's make it useful for the business.
Very nice. Do you feel like there's all of these reports, and I guess the latest one from MIT, which talks about, I guess, 90 or 95% of AI use
Yeah.
cases don't move from POC to production. What do you think is happening there? Do you think the way those numbers are put together is misleading, or do you think that is the state of the world? What do you think is happening there?
I'm really passionate about this specific question. I don't
Yeah.
think it's an issue. I think it's quite real. I think like, yeah,
Okay.
80% of AI project will fail to deliver value. 95% of generative AI or agentic AI will never come out of pilot and never be in production and help the business. I think those numbers are quite right. And there are ways to improve. Like there are companies doing better. We can move this 80% failure rate to 60% or even better, but I don't think that's the right thing to tackle. I don't think it's a problem per se. If we just count failure, then we're trying to avoid failure. And
Mm.
avoiding failure, there's always a way to avoid it. If
Hmm.
you give a challenge to a group of data scientists, for example, they will figure out a way to be successful, but it might take them 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And is it even worth it if you solve this problem after 3 years? Sometimes, yeah, maybe it's a moonshot and it will revolutionize the business, but most
Yeah.
of the time, years is 2 years too late. Business needs to move extremely fast, especially nowadays with the information flowing, the change happening, and the different political environments. You need to be able to act really fast. So sometimes you need to be able to make a decision with 80% of an insight out there without getting to the 90% or 100% of a solution. So I don't think the 80% is a problem. What is a problem is spending too much time on this 80%. So
Mm.
our team, we flip that around. So we don't care about the failure rate. It could be we could fail 99% of the time as long as we're not spending 99% of our time on that.
Yeah.
We call it fail fast. So we're trying to identify when we start a project what might make it fail. What's the
Mm.
weakest link of a project? It can be
Mm.
many things. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
technology. It can be stakeholder engagement. It can be privacy approval, security risk. It can be many, many things. But
Mm.
once we start our project, we already know like, okay, this is the most risky thing. Let's test that first. If it is to make this project fail, let's make it fail the first day so that
Hmm.
we don't spend too much time on it and we move on to another best opportunity out there.
Yeah.
So this approach really helps us to not even care
Mm.
about this failure rate. We can
Mhm.
fail many, many times, but whenever something is successful, we spend much of our time on the success and we monetize really early, iteratively, and we create a lot of value with it. So
Mhm.
we flip that around. So we don't really care about this failure rate. We care more about the time spent on the successful ones.
It's a very nice takeaway, which is as long as those 95% failure rate doesn't mean that 95% of your time is going into it, it's probably a healthy thing to have that failure rate, actually. Yeah.
100%. And we're speaking about time, but that could be cost as well. So we don't want to
Right.
spend too much money on a failing one. We want to spend the
Yeah.
money on the successful one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. That's a very, very nice insight. Could you maybe help us walk us through a use case at Telus that worked really well, provided material outcomes, and what kind of differentiated it from a successful project to not being very successful?
Yeah, sure. I'll share one that I really like
Yeah.
because like it could be applied to many, many things. So we're not
Mm.
just solving one problem, we're solving many with that.
Yeah.
Um, we built what we call the Customer Network Experience Core,
Mm.
CNES. So the problem we were facing is about the fact that our network engineers are having like a vast amount of data that they're collecting from the network every single minute. That can be really overwhelming, and it's tough to understand like how all those KPIs from the network correlate to what people feel about their experience. And at the end, that's what we care about. We care about our end user. We care about people browsing or having calls on our network, or having video, looking at videos, or all the application they can be doing, or the future ones. We care about how do they feel about it, not necessarily what latency packet drop is telling us from the network, but what are people perceiving? Because that's what will make them stay within our network, will recommend our network, will allow us to upsell to them, and will also help us to figure out like where to invest more to save subscribers and reduce our churn on our network. So and I think it's a challenge for all telcos across the world. How do you understand how people are feeling? So the way most telcos have been doing it for the last 20 years was having not AI, sorry, radio frequency engineers, so experts at the network, try to figure out what are the thresholds where experience would be impacted. So say throughput below 5 megabit per second wouldn't allow you to do HD video, so like people will start to be impacted. Or drop call rate, if you have a drop call once every 100 of calls, it's not an issue, but if you have twice, like people start to care. And it's more a matter of guessing what's important for the user than what is really perceived by our subscriber. What we did here is actually decided just to listen to our customers. Instead of trying to guess what they are perceiving, we simply asked them, like, how are they perceiving the network? And we correlated their time-bound and location-based report on their perception with like thousands of granular network experience and network performance metrics. And with that, we're able to use technical KPIs to map human perception. So it's a machine learning model that will have major impact, and we'll get to it. But it's like traditional ML, nothing fancy. It's not about agentic AI or LLM, but it's actually quite complex still to train. But this model is giving us a way to know at any point, given some specific network KPIs, what are people perceiving about the reason why I chose this one to go deeply in is because this created a bridge between the technical team and the investment we're doing in the network and our business outcome. So we're now able to better know who's likely to churn because of the network experience. This gave a boost to our churn model. We already had a churn model based on like devices people have, price they're paying, and a bunch of other metrics on our subscribers. Now we can enhance that with their network experience. And that gave us a huge boost already to understand why people are churning and who's likely to churn. We can also better optimize our network. Whenever we need to decide between location A and B to invest on our network, we know that in A, we will prevent some churn and people will see the plus value of building this tower. Well, in B, maybe not. Maybe like, yes, the network APIs will look better, but people won't actually feel it. There won't be any difference. We are also using that to prioritize whenever there's an anomaly on our network or some alarms, like that could be overwhelming. Like the network with 3G, LTE, and 5G all together, there's so many technologies, so many alarms that are always in play. It's tough to know which one are user impacting and which one are not. And we should always focus on the one that people feel and people might complain about, call the call center, which is costly as well, or even eventually churn. So now we can know like this specific anomaly, this specific situation, people are feeling it and are having a bad perception of it. So we can prioritize that as well. So there's many aspects where this simple machine learning model, traditional machine learning model, is giving us insight and can transform the way we do business. So I do think this one is quite powerful in the sense that we're not just solving one business problem, but multiple. You've also asked about like what made it successful. I think one thing is we started with the right problem. So we didn't just think like, let's use AI on our network data and see what we can figure out, or let's apply agentic AI and force hype into this. We actually started with a real problem. How can we truly understand our customer perception? Today we had our ways with guessing a little bit or expert-based threshold, but now we could finally listen to our subscriber thanks to AI. And also one key element here is deep collaboration. Data scientists are expert at data, are expert at building model, are not radio frequency experts. They are not experts at telecommunications. So we needed deep collaboration with network engineers to figure out what are the right KPIs to look at. How can you do feature engineering that is intelligent and meaningful for the network so that you maximize your chance of having a good score at the end. So I think really starting with the right problem, don't go for the hype, and deep collaboration are three key formulas for success.
And when you say you asked your customers about their perception, is that asked through a SMS, email, WhatsApp? Like, how is that ask happening? Is it a phone call or?
Yeah, it's actually an SMS. The reason is we do send surveys for sure through emails and through voice calls. There's multiple ways we're collecting feedback from our subscribers. But the response rate is quite low. People feeling like a big survey takes a lot of time. It's not everybody time to do it, and it's less time bounded. Like people can answer the survey week or 2 weeks, so you're not sure exactly when this happened. While an SMS, you know exactly when you sent it, when people responded to it. We were sending only one question, so it's really easy for people to answer. Like it's a score 1 to 5. How do you rate your experience? So we had a response rate of 10%, which is major. It's I think 100 times more than what we normally get in terms of response rate. So we got a really strong database from our subscribers, and we could correlate that with their network KPIs. And then we're really able to understand how they would rate this experience at any point. So we don't need to ask them every single day. We know now, even before they ask, what they would say if we ask them.
Very nice. I mean, it's a very nice use case, and I can see why it's so valuable, like you said, because it kind of bridges the gap between the business investment and the into the technology and the customer's perception of that investment that you have done. So it kind of gives you a very good sense of the ROI. One of the nice things about your role, Alexandre, is that you get to deliver these solutions across telecom, agriculture, entertainment, all of those things. Could you talk a little about that? Like, how does that change when you deliver it across all of this? And what kind of deep domain expertise is needed? Like, if you just help us understand those things, that'll be very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for bringing this question, because so far we discussed a lot about the telco side, and this is where we started. But then we evolved and created a centralized team to help all the business units. So right now we help marketing, we help sell, we help engineering, software engineers as well that develop products. We have teams dedicated to the finance, CFO team. We have teams dedicated to IT, health, and agriculture. So we've created really a framework that is applicable to almost anywhere. For sure, there's always those three circles about defining what a data scientist is, and I think they are still relevant today. There's this computer science, which is quite important. Whenever you build a model, you need to integrate it into a process, or you need to fetch information from APIs, or integrate that into APIs as well with MCPs and Agentic AI. So the software is still extremely important. You have the statistician and data scientist part. You need to understand data. You need to understand the output. You need to be able to train a model. But there's also another extremely important component. It's about business knowledge, being like an expert in your domain. No data scientist can be expert at everything. Already just software and data science is massive, and it's tough for somebody to be expert at everything. But like if you add business domain, just health, for example, it's almost impossible to have. You won't find somebody in the street that has all of that. They are, but like it's tough to attract them and find the right people. And many companies would be fighting for them. So the way we structured our team is that we have squads dedicated to a specific business unit. So each squad has all the required expertise. It's quite important, not having a siloed data engineering team with a siloed data science team with a siloed software engineering team that brings an unfinished project to one team to the other, and then there's some delays and a mix of priorities, and it takes time before we deliver. We actually took all the right expertise, put them into what we call a squad that is dedicated to a business unit. So we have one squad dedicated to marketing, one squad dedicated to finance. So this team is not necessarily expert at finance on day one,
Yeah.
but they will be closely working with the finance team on a day-to-day basis. Like they will
Hmm.
sit down with them, understand their work. They are including them as part of the squad. Actually, we have
Yeah.
SME business also part of the squad, and all together they become expert to an extent that they understand what finance is about, or they understand what health is about, and they can speak with the same terms and language, and bring in their computer science and data science expertise to deliver an outcome. So this structure framework of how we structured our team really help us to tackle almost any industry. Anytime
Yeah.
something new comes in and tell us like we're good at getting into a new industry, acquiring, we're good at merger and acquisition, so we always have new business coming in. Our recipe of having people dedicated to them with the full expertise and being more problem centric really help us to make value to any of those business units. But also, I think our framework and our way of thinking, our way of approaching a problem is quite important and has
Mm.
a great impact. We're never technology first. We're problem centric, as we've mentioned
Mm.
before.
Hmm. Hmm.
Our goal is to understand and map how do they create value. If somebody comes to us, and that happens a lot, people thinking like, oh, AI is a new automation tool. I have this report I'm doing every single day. Let's use agentic AI and let's automate it. Like a lot
Yeah.
of requests are coming our way for those kind of things. And this is great. Like we love that people are thinking about it and they are interested into it. That's amazing. And we love having those discussions with people. Most of the time though, we won't automate this report because that's not the right thing to do. We
Mm.
investigate first, like why is this report helpful? Are people actually reading it? And we
Yeah.
discover sometimes that no, like you've been doing that for a long time and nobody is reading it, or people are, but they're not making any business decision out of that. So we
Yeah.
first question, why are we doing this report? Can we bypass this report or can we just kill it? And that's already creating value. We don't even have to apply AI, just say like, save this 2-3 hours a day. Like
Yeah.
it's not useful today.
Hmm.
So like just re-questioning and mapping the value chain, having a business consultant approach brings a lot of value and a focus on what is the real problem at hand. And once
Yeah.
we identify it, as I've also mentioned before, AI always come into play. So there's always an AI component. Our team are really doing AI, but we don't start with the AI, we end up with the AI in our
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah.
And that has been successful in any business unit and any industry so far.
It's a very nice kind of bottoms up, first principles kind of approach to kind of picking the right problem and even questioning why do you need to solve this in the first place, right? Yeah. So, as an AI leader, as you go about, I mean, you manage a team of, almost 80 plus AI engineers. What would you say are your biggest burning challenges or problems for which that you wish, solutions existed, either technically or, any other way?
Oh, I have many here. But the first thing that comes to mind is
Uh-huh.
actually a problem that is common across any growing business unit or any growing startup. There's a threshold at around 50 people where you start to um, need to have more concrete values, like specific and documented values, process, standards for your team. When you're under 50 people, it's more easy to know everyone and to have time to spend with everyone. And the culture is implicit. People know how to work, know like how to make a decision by themselves because they know how you would think about that. They can challenge their ideas and have a more direct communication channel with their managers and leaders. But once you reach 50, and I don't know if it's documented the 50%, but I've had many chats with owners of companies that grew really fast or
Yeah.
business units that grew really fast. And that was our case through the years, like we grew extremely fast. It's tough to maintain those standards, this culture, this approach, this collaboration and communication flow once you reach 50 people. So
Yeah.
we're past that. We're actually reaching over 100 people in the AI accelerator. And we have this challenge right now, and that's something we're actively tackling. How do we create common standards in our team to make sure that somebody could switch from one squad to the other, and don't have a ramp up? If
Yeah.
if everybody is using at least the bare minimum, it doesn't need to be too much. It shouldn't be too much because people will feel they can't innovate anymore and bring in new ideas and have as much flexibility as they had before. But we don't want, for example, somebody to have Jira for their workflow management and somebody else using something else in Notion, or like we don't want people to have different tooling and conversation tool as well. Like we don't want people on Zoom and people on Google Meet, for example. Like we want to have common tools, common frameworks, common approach to a bare minimum where people could move from one squad to the other. We are trying to have an approach similar to the big consulting group. And sometimes the best expert at agentic AI might not be in your current squad. So somebody is working in CTO team, is becoming really an expert at agentic AI, but now the need is in marketing. We would like to take this expert and bring them in the other squad for marketing to help them get started, educate them, and accelerate their work. But in order to do that, there shouldn't be a big ramp up. We can't have somebody switch to the other team and have to ramp up for 2-3 weeks. That wouldn't make sense. They should be able to understand how they work so that like within a day they get it and they can collaborate more easily and be more fluid around our team, which we worked. But now it's becoming much more complex now that we've reached over 50 people. So I think this is really a common challenge for any business leader or an entrepreneur. Once you reach 50 people, you need to officialize the standards, the approach. How do we do MLOps, for example, in our case, so that we can better collaborate among ourselves. So I think that's one big challenge that I need to tackle. The other one is more toward our business stakeholders. I feel anytime there's a new technology that comes out, we repeat the same kind of mistakes. First, we go for the hype. Like there's this hype cycle that is so true. Like people always go for the overhype, they over expect from the technology, then they get down to like way too we're too low. They think like the technology is actually completely terrible, but then that's after you start to create value. We're starting sometimes to skip this high flow and skip this down this bottom of the expectation. We're trying to get straight to the production and meaningful part of the hype cycle. But like there's two key things that I feel people constantly forget anytime there's a new technology. The first is that technology alone won't create value. There's no, at least not to this day, you can't deploy technology in a company and it will create value by itself. It's always the three main things: technology, people, and process. And I think we still forget about that. We forget about people and process. Now, generative AI and agentic AI feel so human that people think just applying generative AI would solve their problem. But it's not about it. Like this is still a change management that is required. You still need to involve people and integrate into process in order to create value with that. So getting people to understand this simple thing about people, process, and technology is already something extremely important that our business stakeholders forget. The other thing is going straight for the hype and thinking this is magic. And we do it like in just 2 years. Like 2 years ago, we've been having a lot of conversation around generative AI is not magic. Actually, it's not replacing traditional ML. It's not good at predicting an outcome. It's just good at text. It's good at understanding text or voice, but understanding unstructured data and giving you stuff out of that. There's many applications. This is really revolutionary, but don't ask generative AI to do a Churn model. It won't be able to do it. So it's two different technologies, and educating people about that, showing the limitation of it, explaining to them that this is not a magic wand. There's a lot of work that needs to happen around it to be able to leverage generative AI. So we've been into that for 2 years, but now there's this new term, agentic AI. People think that, okay, generative AI wasn't a magic wand. Now agentic AI is. Let's go with agentic AI. I want to hear about agentic AI. But I think most people don't understand that agentic AI is just generative AI calling in tools. So that's still hallucinate. That's still sometimes making mistakes. It's still not perfect. So and it's complex to orchestrate and to maintain in the long run. So I think this understanding of how to drive a technological transformation is something that is quite recurrent across any new technologies. And we could speak about the web and the big data era and all of that. It always happens. And We're trying to manage that in the best way we can. But if I did have a magic wand, that's something I would try to solve quite quickly, making sure that people understand like where it can be applied, where it's more risky to do it, what are the limitations of each technology. Still, hype is cool because we're discussing with them and there's interest, and that's great. But we need to get down to like applying to where it makes sense and not just forcing it because it's hypey technology.
Very, 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 very insightful. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so you mentioned this interesting thing about, people forget about the change management. There's a technology, that the people and the process. So, let's say once you build an AI application and you give it to the hands of the end users, are there challenges around adoption? For example, people, unsure how to use it, getting stuck. I guess when we used to deal with software, there used to be all these digital adoption platforms like WalkMe and things like that that would help with adoption. Are there similar challenges with AI or not really? Or do you think AI is more intuitive to use that way?
100%. Actually, I think it's even worse with AI because there's on top of that a fear of being replaced by AI.
Uh,
So people are quite resistant to change.
mm,
Um, First thing I would answer here is people shouldn't be too worried about being replaced by AI, at least up to
mhm.
this point. Like for sure, if we create artificial general intelligence, if it's
Yeah,
possible, and if we solve it in the near future, that could be scary. But what we have today, we never replace a single person's role with AI. And I'm
yeah,
quite proud of this. The last 6, 7 years, we've deployed hundreds of AI applications throughout the
mhm,
business,
mhm,
and we never replace anybody's work. We're
mhm,
enhancing people's work. And it's much
mhm,
more meaningful for a business to have somebody produce twice as much or 10 times as much output with the work they're doing than just
mhm,
replacing somebody and just saving some cost. There's
mhm.
much more meaningful value for the business and enhancing business operation than just saving costs. So people shouldn't be too afraid about AI replacing them, not in the near future. But as many are starting to say, somebody using AI might replace you. If you're
Yeah,
trying to be resistant to change and you're not adopting AI and everybody around you adopts AI, well,
yeah,
you won't be as efficient as others. And at some point, like your performance will go down and you might get replaced at some point. As
yeah,
if like you
yeah.
were pushing back on using a computer and you were still using sheet and paper today. That wouldn't work in our modern world.
Right.
So resistance to change because of fear of being replaced shouldn't be an issue, but like it
Yeah,
still is. So that's something we need to manage.
makes sense.
But
Mhm.
the resistance to change is quite important, especially when you develop something and then push it to users.
Yeah,
We've experienced that a lot, like for big groups of people, like if we speak about call centers of 10,000 people, like for sure we can't involve all of them into the decision and the development of that's just not possible.
yeah,
Whenever we do it, a smaller group, it's easy to co-develop with them. Adoption
yeah,
is done from zero actually, and they are developing it. So like change is quite easy there. But
yeah,
if you're developing something in your ivory tower and then pushing it to 10,000 people, for sure there won't be as much buy-in and adoption of the technology. So then
yeah,
you need to do a lot of training. You need to create incentive around that. You need to show them how like they can be more efficient and that will help them in their work. You need to also integrate that in their current process because if you have like for example another window that they need to go through to apply AI and to chat with for example the call center data, they might probably not do it. People are lazy
right.
by nature and fully understand that. I would do the same. But if it's in front of their eyes and their current tools are even the generative AI is suggesting what they should say next and they don't even have to type anything on the computer, it's in front of their eyes, they
Yeah,
will have to adapt. It's just there. Like it's easy for them. So if you simplify their lives, you maximize adoption at the end. And that's a great way to minimize resistance to change whenever you can include them from day one. But if you can
mhm,
include them from day one, it's a smaller group. That's the best way for sure. Like they feel that they are empowered, they develop that, that's their own baby, so they want it to be successful. And even better, if we push it further, we are sometimes just empowered teams to self-serve and develop their own thing. So we have a lot of different teams inside of the company that self-serve, that they created their amazing Copilot, Generative AI, or even agentic workflow that serves them, and they fully developed it on their own. So we empowered them, we developed platform tooling standards, we educate them, but then they fully serve. That's when you have the maximum adoption possible because it's fully coming from them.
It's theirs. Makes sense. That's a very nice insight. Yeah, I just one follow-up question was that you had mentioned the number one problem that you have, and especially since your team has scaled so rapidly, is the whole centralizing playbooks and standard operating procedures kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
is the big problem there actually maybe having a single source of truth where all of these things are aside and all the AI projects follow a specific set process? Is that the problem, or is it making all these SOPs? Is that the problem? Like, which part is most of the problem there?
I would say both. So actually,
Both, yeah.
I'll start maybe with how we're solving this right now.
Yeah.
Through conversation with some consulting companies and
Hmm.
the way they approach. I'm not asking them to tell me how to manage AI, but more like how do you do that in your own,
Yeah.
so that I can get some ideas from them. I heard about a process called chapter leads. So that's something like Deloitte, McKinsey are having, somebody that becomes really an expert in their specific stream, and then document it and advocate for the best practice. So that's when we were solving that inside of our team. We identified tech leads that are chapter leads now, and that manage various aspects of the work.
Hmm.
And to answer your question, many aspects of the work needs to be standardized to a specific extent. Again, I want
Hmm.
to have maximum flexibility possible and maximize innovation and creativity in the team. I don't want to force too much and put silos in our team, but there is some stuff, ways to think about problems. So to mention a couple of those challenges, we have a couple of those chapter leads. Like for example, we have a software engineering chapter lead. That will be the person responsible of making sure that code is reviewed before being put in production. And how do we create GitHub repository? And how do we share with the team? How do we have a platform and reusability view of the thing we're doing? So that will be chapter lead. We have data engineering lead. So how do we create our data pipelines, and how do we create alerting on top of that? Like, can we have common practices? Can we reuse some stuff that we're doing?
Mm.
We have machine learning engineer chapter lead that is more responsible of the traditional ML. Where to deploy it? For us, we're using Google Cloud Platform. So how do we set up an instance in Vertex AI, and how should we build the ML ops for the operation after we deploy a model? We have one for generative AI. We have one for agentic AI. We have even one for our AI PM on how do we engage with other teams? How do we run those brainstorming sessions,
Yeah.
design thinking, and all of that. Like, there's a chapter lead for that as well, so that it's common across each of the teams, and we can leverage each other's good ideas. Those
Nice.
leads are not about enforcing stuff. They're not the one figuring that on their own. It's about like them creating a community of practice, getting insights and ideas from each of the teams, bringing the best ideas together, and just documenting our practices.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very smart. And also, Alexander, given the scale at which you have a large team, a huge company, you're deploying these projects, and so you're probably deploying lots of these AI projects out there. So once these projects go live, how do you kind of make sure there is continuous monitoring of usage, engagement, outcomes? How do you go about doing that today?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Hmm.
We follow a framework. I don't know exactly where this is coming from. Actually, it's being used in many places. I think there's a book around that.
Hmm.
The principle is nail it, scale it, sell it. So nail it is our part that we call the fail fast. It's about like testing stuff quickly, just making sure that this is feasible and it can create some value. So that's the nail it, more fail fast and experimentation phase. Then there's the scaling. So once we know this creates value, this is helpful, this can be deployed as a product and managed as a product, this is the scale it. We're putting it in production and making sure that this is reliable and like useful and always being up to the standards there. And then the sell it part is where we would be into an ML ops operation. So how do we maintain this model and make sure that like it's still relevant in the future?
Yeah.
I think your question is more about this MLOps part.
Mm.
So for sure, we have model drift. For example, if we go back to the network experience score, people's perception from the network changes through time.
Yeah.
People don't have the same expectation today than they have when they had a 2G network. Data now is supposed to be fast, and now you're supposed to be able to do video call really easily. So like expectation is always evolving. So the model that you train today won't be still relevant in a year from now because people
Yeah.
expectation will change.
Yeah.
So you need to train this model. So you
Mhm.
need to have alerting to discover whenever your model is starting to drift and is no longer represented a reality, and that you need to retrain your model. So those alarms, those retraining processes, those exposure and a model registry, all of that is one of our process for our MLOps
Yeah.
that is extremely important to sustain good models that are still helpful for the business in the long run.
Mhm.
We also need to be in constant communication with the end user and make sure that they do produce value out of that. And if they don't, that's fine. Like sometimes like something is useful to get them started on a new way of thinking about stuff. And at some point we can pull the plug on a model. And it's a good thing. Like the model served its needs. They understand now, they have a new insight about how they should be doing the work, and we can just pull the plug and cancel this model. We're saving some costs. We're reducing the amount of maintenance we need to do, and we can focus on more innovative work. So maybe the future is about unplugging the model, but for that we need to constantly ensure that the business either use it or not anymore.
Yeah.
And one way to encourage the team to follow up on this is that we're measuring our success on value we're creating for others. So
Mhm.
if a model is useful for a team, we're measuring our success on that. We're measuring that in
Yeah.
dollar value. So if it's producing 1 million for this business unit, we're making sure every year, like, are you still producing 1 million? Is it now 500K, 2 million? Like, how is this going? And we're getting a sense of that from them. If it becomes too low, then we can have the decision of pulling the plug or not. And if it's increasing, then maybe there's something even better we can do with it, and we can expand and continuously work with them.
What are some best practices or guidance do you have to attract, retain, and grow like a top tier AI team like you do right now?
Yeah, good question. This is quite a challenge. We hear about that a lot. Like, how do
Hmm.
we find the right talent and retain them? One key thing that helped us is that we centralized the AI into one big team. Uh, Telus has been doing AI for a really long time. I would say probably 20 years ago, we already had churn models and a recommendation engine and many, many things. But like it was done in pockets of data scientists all across the company. So you had some people, like I've mentioned before, a capacity engineer doing forecasting models for the network, some people working on churn model in marketing, and nobody knew each other. It was just pockets of data scientists. And those data scientists were surrounded by not necessarily data scientists, but like the capacity engineer is surrounded by radio frequency engineer, and the data scientist in marketing responsible of churn is surrounded by marketers. So like they can't really evolve and grow and learn new skills.
Mm.
And in this field, since it's moving extremely fast, nobody can read everything and be aware about everything. Even if they spend their whole day just reading AI news, they wouldn't be aware about everything happening
Yeah.
out there. So it's impossible to grow if you're alone in this pocket of data scientists, or even alone in another business unit without other data experts around you. So the fact that we centralized really helped people grow, really helped them to collaborate. Somebody might become really good at reinforcement learning and can educate others about that. And somebody might become really good at computer vision or any other field, and they can collaborate and all grow together. So that already attracts a lot more talent and retain them more than having just a data scientist in marketing, for example.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, centralizing, but not centralizing to be in a ivory tower and like developing stuff for others and not looking and not doing the change management. Like you need still to be dedicated to business. That's why I've mentioned the squad dedicated to a specific group. But like centralizing them in a common team to exchange best practices, to have a better view of everything happening in the field is really helpful for the growth. And what data scientists are looking for is growth and constantly learning, because they know like if they don't keep on looking for what are the newest trends, in 6 months from now they become irrelevant. So it's really important for that.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. But the other one is people want to also work for a company that is renowned. So like working for Microsoft, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, like that's what like young data scientists are looking for, because it makes a statement in their resume, and they are happy about it, and it helps them for their future growth as well. Like mentioning that you've worked at Google before, it is helping you. So we try to work all together to position Telus as one key place to work for AI.
Mm.
We've built that. We're not just bragging about it. Like we've built that. We have so many use cases, so many examples of why this is one of the, if not, and if it's not, we will get there. But we want to be the best adopters of AI in the world. We won't be
Mm.
we're not building LLMs. We're not competing against OpenAI or Google on that. That's not our role. But once like technology out there, how do we adopt it to create value? We want to be the best in the world, and we're
Mm.
creating a brand. The Telus AI Accelerator is getting known across the world for being good at adopting AI in any industry. We have our good practices of doing that, and scaling those initiatives to have massive impact on the business. So
Yeah.
I think this brand that we're creating is helping to attract talent, and is also helping to retain talent, because they're proud of what they're building. They really contribute to something bigger. The last thing I would say is that in our team, it's also about the fact that people can tackle multiple different things. People
Yeah.
switch from different industry business units, but also different technology. Like they're not dedicated to just one thing. We are a little bit of a jump start for young students that wants to be in AI. Like we grow them up to senior level, and then they get hired sometimes by Meta, by Microsoft. We lost like some of our best engineers to those companies. But once they are there, it for sure pays much better. But they are a bit in a silo and in a competitive environment.
Yeah.
People are ranked versus each other. So like they are in
Hmm.
competition with peers. So they don't want to share as much. They don't want to collaborate as much. They want to show that they're better than their peers.
Yeah.
And they're dedicated to really a small portion. So some people, all they do is doing fraud monitoring on payment system. That's the
Mm.
only thing they. In
Yeah.
our team, people can move in the same day from fraud to customer experience to recommendation engine to computer vision to detect polls. Like they can switch from so many different technologies, so many different problems. Like this
Yeah.
really helps them grow and understand the full business and grow as even leaders if they want to, because they
Yeah.
get to understand how business work really. So I think this aspect is really helping with retention and also attracting young talent that want to experiment and understand how business work and understand how to create value within the business, as well as growing their technical knowledge with all those experts around them.
That's very thorough. I mean, centralizing it so they have career growth progression, making TELUS a very aspirational brand, and also that they get to kind of go between use cases across industries pretty quickly. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then, Alexander, has been fantastic. But finally, the final thought I would love to get from you is for the next maybe 3 to 5 years, where do you think a lot of the AI monetization opportunities would come from and that enterprises ought to be focusing on?
This is a great question, and it's always tough to answer because 3 years is like 100 years in this domain. Stuff are moving
Yeah,
so fast, and
yeah,
it's so tough to predict even what will come out in 6 months. Just as an example, GPT-5 was released this summer. Expectations were extremely high. Finally, it wasn't as powerful as people were expecting. So like it
yeah,
changes a lot. And right now, agentic AI is overhyped, and people are thinking like it will be transformative. While we're figuring out in the field that like there's still a lot of things to improve before it can be really helpful for
yeah,
businesses. So the technology side is extremely tough to predict. So one way to prepare for that is about being as agile as possible. So setting our teams to be able to quickly switch from one technology to the other, being able to adopt on day one if something is out and test it really quickly. So this agility is extremely important, and that's one way to position ourselves for any new technology that comes out. But if I am to guess for the next 3 4 years, I think yes, agentic will have its play, will be really important. I don't think it's as important as people think today. There's always a bubble that starts, and it will need to pop, and then we'll get down to what's really valuable. But it's really about now moving from just Copilot that produce text to Copilots that can actually go and perform some work for you and then come back with an answer, and having still human in the loop validate the answer and make sure that this is okay, or resend the agent to perform the work again. So I think like we'll be getting there. We'll become slowly managers of agents. Like everybody will have agents that will work for them, come with some work, and you will validate it, accept it or not. I think that's something that might happen within the next 2 3 years.
Very, 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 very interesting. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Alexander. This has been fantastic. Lots of very nice insights and a very inspirational way to run your AI team. Thank you for doing this.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.